Hello, welcome to Creative Catchup,
a podcast where myself, Natasha Newton,
artist and illustrator, and me, Mel Chadwick,
illustrator and designer, will be chatting about running a creative business.
Each episode we'll be diving into a different topic that has come up in our own creative practice.
We'll be sharing our experiences, both the ups and downs, struggles and successes,
and hopefully give some advice that you'll also find useful.
So join us as Mel chats about her recent experience in travelling to Madrid and filming a Domestika course.
Hola, Natasha!
Hola, Mel!
Okay, so things are a little bit different for this episode because, Natasha, you know I've been away. I've been to Madrid. I came back last week. I've been in quarantine. We thought it'd be great, actually, if Natasha would kind of grill me on what I've been doing whilst I've been away, and we thought maybe you guys would find this interesting too, because it's all related to my illustration work and teaching. And so we thought actually you guys might like to hear about the behind the scenes of filming and traveling to another country. So Natasha, what questions do you have for me?
Okay, I've written down a few things that I want to ask you because I'm really interested about hearing all about the behind the scenes of this trip that you've just come back from. So my first question to you about this is, when Domestika approached you and asked you to do this, did you immediately think that this was something that you wanted to do? Did you ever think of not doing it?
My initial thoughts was, is this a joke? Is this for real? I seriously thought, to be honest, it was such a surprise to receive an email like that, and someone, the person who contacted me seemed genuinely interested in my work. They were really excited to speak to me. And I guess I was quite, not skeptical, but just thinking, is this for real?
Yeah.
So what I did though, I just responded and I just said, yeah, I'm really interested to find out more. And that was the initial kind of conversation I had. And then from there, we set up a meeting. So we had a Google Hangout meeting, I think, and kind of talked to her. And she was obviously Spanish speaking and based in Madrid. And that was good because I got to see her face to face and hear her talk about it. What felt like a little bit like an interview, although it wasn't termed as an interview. It just was like trying to get to know me a bit more and what I do. And then I was able just to talk about my illustration and what I have been working on. And they were particularly interested in my food illustration, which is why they found me, or how they found me.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question, was, do you know how they found you?
I asked them, actually. I was like, how did you even find me? So I illustrated a lot of food illustrations for a book a couple of years ago called Foodimentary, and it was myself and 3 other illustrators who worked on this book, and I worked on the summer months. So we basically illustrated the month opener and then did about 50, 60 food illustrations. And I think they found me through that project and found my website, then were able to look at my portfolio. They also mentioned they looked at my YouTube channel as well and could see what I was like on camera. That's quite a big part of, well, it is the whole part of it. So.
Yeah, you have to do something like this, you have to be very confident on camera, don't you?
Yeah, we just got on and had a nice rapport, and I just felt like, oh, actually this would be real. I don't know why I was so doubting that it was actually happening.
Well, sometimes when something really great happens like this, it's hard to believe that it can be true. You always think there's going to be a bit of a catch or something, don't you?
Yeah. And I think that's definitely true in this kind of industry as well, because I've had so many what seem to be good opportunities come up, but then things don't always happen.
Yeah, so many things don't come to fruition, do they?
Exactly, yeah. So I think that's why I was a little bit like that with this. After that conversation, she was still sounded really interested, and then sent me the contract, which I had to look through and then sign.
So Mel, can you tell us a little bit more about exactly what you were doing in Madrid?
Okay, so Domestika had contacted me to teach an online course for them, and the course was going to be on food illustration. So I would be leading people through maybe 12, 15 lessons of how I get inspired by food, how I create it, and then how I make my illustration from, say, sketches and bring it into Illustrator, and then combine analog, digital techniques to create a final food illustration piece.
Brilliant.
So my course is basically on food illustration and how to illustrate a recipe.
That sounds so interesting. To me, you seem very brave, honestly, to do something like this, because not only is it scary to be working with people you don't really know, but you're also going to another country. So there's that as well. You're going to be in front of the camera. They're going to be filming you. And this is in the middle of a pandemic. So
yeah.
How did you feel before you left? Were you very nervous, or were you kind of okay about it? I mean, because you've travelled quite a bit anyway, haven't you, throughout your life? So
I have been to different cultures and experiences different languages, but because the period of time, so they contacted me beginning of September, and they set the filming dates for mid-November, so I knew that.
So it wasn't a huge amount of time, was there, beforehand?
No, it was. I'm actually really glad that it wasn't, because although I felt like, yes, this is good and I'm enjoying it, I think it was good that it wasn't such a long period of time, because I would have been overthinking it for too long.
Yeah.
I definitely had some disturbed nights, just trying to get my head around it, trying to make sure I was prepared. There was a lot of work to do in the run up to it. But yeah, it was bit by bit. I think the good thing was that they prepared you for it a little by little. So we had the whole structure of the course. I had to write the, what I would be teaching on. And then using Google Docs, we then would do tasks like every week, just uploading what we had to do for that week. That might be materials that we were going to use. It might be our outfits that we were going to wear.
Yeah, can I just ask, did you have to take your own art materials, or did they provide you with art materials?
No, I had to take all my own art materials. Yeah, my bag was just full of art materials and sketchbooks. So I think I took all my sketchbooks. So that's about 12 sketchbooks and all my art materials, and then I had a tiny little space for my outfits.
This is the classic artist though, isn't it? Use up all of your space in your case for art materials. It's like the clothes are an afterthought.
Yeah. But I mean, the two outfits were the ones that would appear on camera, and you had to basically wear them. I think I wore one outfit for 3 days straight, and then the other outfit for 1 day. So, but yeah, you were saying how did I prepare in terms of got my head around it, and I think that's what helped, was doing it in bits, just not overthinking it too much. When we started the discussions, we had just come out of we had been out of the first lockdown, hadn't we, for a little time, but there were these kind of warnings about going back into one, later, and it was around that time that I was thinking, will I be able to do this, or will we be in lockdown?
Yeah, so it was very uncertain, wasn't it, for a while? You weren't 100% sure. Yeah.
And actually, I didn't know if I was going to do it until a week before, as in that's when the plane tickets were booked, was a week before. So up until that point, I was thinking, is it going to happen? Isn't it going to happen? And especially, I think it was end of September, October, when Madrid went into its kind of extreme lockdown measures, And, you know, that was on the news, you know, and you saw like how it was escalating in Madrid. And I was thinking, I'm meant to be there in November. So
when you arrived in Madrid, how did things seem there regarding the COVID situation?
To be honest, I mean, everyone was wearing masks. There didn't seem to be that many people around for it being a city. Yeah, when I arrived though, it was late at night anyway, so it was about 11 in the evening.
Oh yes, and your phone didn't work properly, did it?
No.
You said to me.
Yeah.
You arrived in Madrid and you that must be quite scary.
Let me talk about the journey. So I left Cornwall about 8:30, got the train from Penzance to Paddington, and then from Paddington to Heathrow, and then Heathrow to Madrid. All that time I had to wear a mask, and I think that was the hardest thing, was actually having to wear a mask for that amount of time. I don't think that is a good amount of time to wear a mask for, because when I got into the airport, seriously, my vision wasn't great. I couldn't actually see the board in the distance, and you know, you kind of got a little bit cloudy. So I think it was because I just wasn't having enough oxygen.
Yeah.
So I did feel a bit disorientated anyway when I arrived. But then, yeah, my phone, for some reason, I thought I'd set it up to have data roaming, but for some reason there was like an error came up saying, you haven't set up your phone for data roaming. And I was like, I did. I'm sure I did. So the problem was that my producer who had arranged a taxi for me had sent all of his information through WhatsApp, which uses your data. So I couldn't access any of that info. So I was like, where am I going? What am I going to do? So I kind of like had a little bit of a panic.
Yeah, I think we all would.
After waiting there for 10 minutes, I got a call from some number which I didn't recognise. And I was like, oh, maybe that's something. Maybe that could be Sarah. And it was. So she had basically changed her phone number, and she had managed to contact me and ring me. So my phone was working, as in, you know, you could ring me, but I couldn't receive data messages.
Right, yeah.
So in the end, she said, right, well, you just find a cab and hand the phone over to the driver, and I'll tell him where he's got to drop you. So thankfully, that all worked out.
Oh, what a relief.
Yeah, I can tell you, when I got to the
goodness.
hotel, I was like, oh, I'm so glad I'm here.
Yeah, that seems like a huge journey. I mean, even just going from Cornwall to London is a big journey, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it does take a long time, like 6 hours on the train.
Yeah, that's a long time to be wearing a mask. And I know that I struggle when I'm wearing a mask, even for short periods. So I can't imagine what it would be like to wear one for hours.
Yeah, well, you think about in Madrid, they all have to wear a mask all the time as well. So when you're walking on the streets, you have to wear a mask. When you're in a building, when they're working, they're all wearing a mask the whole time.
Yeah, because this was what I was going to ask you as well. I found it quite interesting when you posted some photos of the behind the scenes on your Instagram, and it looked like they were wearing masks at one point, and then...
Yeah, they were, yeah.
And then they took them off, and they were all like having these kind of funny photos where you were standing there with a knife. At least I hope it was fun.
That just sounds so random, doesn't it? No,
it does. A kitchen knife.
A kitchen knife. That was actually on the last day, and we had some fun kind of pulling some funny photos together. But yeah, the beginning, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, they all had to wear, they were all wearing masks, and yeah, they have to wear them when they're filming. Obviously, I didn't have to wear them because I had to be...
That would be very difficult.
Be very hard to hear
to
me.
Sit there in a mask. Yeah. So did you feel quite confident with the measures that they were taking regarding the COVID thing?
Yeah, I think I did. And there were notices, like in the hotel, they were in the elevators, only one family or one person in the elevator. They were saying, all of the stuff is washed over 80 degrees or something. And, you know, it was very much, you had to wear your mask. There are definitely like measures that have been put in, and I think more so maybe in Madrid because of the fact that they had such a tight lockdown, and it was probably more extreme there anyway. You can't worry about it though too much, even though you could legitimately worry about it. But sometimes you just can't when you're in that situation, because you're there to do the job, and if you're worrying about it, you're not going to be able to give your best. And worrying about it isn't going to change things either. You're just going to end up panicked and then not actually do what you came to do.
Yeah, and you do want to enjoy the whole experience as well, don't you?
Yeah, exactly.
You know, it is supposed to be an enjoyable thing. You know, you can't sit there worrying all the time. So what would you say was your favourite part of the entire process or the trip? What was the thing that stands out for you?
Well, I love actually being on the set, and actually what I loved about it was the behind the scenes bit of the set. So as someone who likes, you know, filming and is interested in that kind of side of things, it was just really interesting to be able to see how the professionals do it and how they set it all up.
Have you learned loads of stuff?
I think I have. I think I have picked up some stuff, and I realised how important lighting is and how much of a difference that makes to a set. So the way that they lit it all, massive kind of diffusers and just lights were the important thing. You could just see how things were changed just with that right lighting. I also, on the Wednesday, we did some stop motion stuff. So I'd loved doing that. That was so nice to see, because again, stop motion is something that I'm just interested in, and I have tried to do some of that on my own channel, but I just loved how they all set it up, and I could see how they did it and had fun doing it, and that was really nice to do. Another thing I really enjoyed was the family kind of feeling that they had at the company. So everyone kind of seemed to get on, and at lunchtime they all have dinner, like a proper dinner. So you would go to the lunch hall area, pick up your lunch. Obviously it was because of COVID, you couldn't sit opposite someone. So that made it probably different, but it was nice that they all ate in their groups. So, you know, I felt taken care of in that aspect. I wasn't expected to go off and find my own dinner on my own and sit on my own.
That's good, yeah. That makes a huge difference.
Yeah, it does. And I was included in that. And then they'd say, Melanie, come and sit over here. Come on.
Did a Spanish person just come into the room?
And then there was a bit where you could sit outside as well, and that was really nice because the sun was out and we had some really nice days. And I think one day it came up to 21 degrees. So
oh wow, in November?
Yeah, in November.
Gosh.
I think maybe November is a good time to go and visit Madrid, especially if you don't like really hot weather. Then go, I think, in November, because you're going to get maybe something like a British summer.
Did you like Madrid itself? I guess you didn't maybe get that much chance to explore.
It reminded me of Hong Kong, because having lived in Hong Kong with all the skyscrapers and tower blocks and apartments, probably because it was like very much like that city, busy kind of energy, a lot of people, similar kind of smells, similar things, like little shops, little fruit shops. And I had some papaya, which I love, and I remember eating that in Hong Kong, and the way that they packaged it was very, very much the same as in Hong Kong as well. So that was really interesting to see little things that I recognised. Another thing, if I went out of my hotel and just turned left, there was a Lidl's. So
oh, brilliant.
and we had to kind of get our own food for the evening, but because we had had a dinner at lunchtime, I felt like, well, I didn't really need to have a massive dish in the evening. But for the first first 2 days I just went to Lidl's and picked up some food from there that I could just prepare easily in the hotel.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, how long were your working days there? How long did you have to film for each day?
They were actually quite long days. So the first...
Yeah, because you weren't there very long,
No,
were you? What did you have, 4 days to do it in?
4 days to do it in. And so the first day was 9 till 6. It might have been a little bit later on that first day.
Yeah, that's quite a long day, isn't it?
The first day was the hardest day. I mean, it was difficult, even though I like being, you know, on camera, or I don't mind it. It was very hard to, I think, just to adjust to everything and have like your crew, which are 3 other people who are in the room with you. One of them I've already met, or had been in communication with, the producer, and then had also met the filmmaker a couple of times on Google. And then there's another guy who was the kind of audio person, and he did lots of other things as well. So yeah, it was just quite overwhelming that first day, and you had to kind of get into it straight away. It wasn't like, okay, we're just going to chill for a little bit. It's like, right, okay, let's go then. This is what you're going to say. You're going to just do all of your introductions to your lessons. Let's go for it. This is what you're going to say. Blah, 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 blah. And then you just had to repeat it. And gosh, it was just so hard just to get going and to just get the words out coherently. It was like really, really weird. Like I forgot how to speak English. I did keep it together, but it was a hard slog that first day to just do it. And I think I didn't sleep too well that Monday, but Tuesday I woke up and I just gave myself a pep talk and looked in the mirror and said, you could do this, Mel, you could do this.
So you were feeling a little bit on that Tuesday morning, was it? You were feeling a little bit sort of uncertain and...
Yeah, definitely on the Tuesday morning I was like, oh, I don't know if I can do this. This is quite hard. And also because I hadn't slept so well, I was really, really tired.
Because you really need to be on the ball to do things like that, don't you? It's difficult if you haven't... I mean, Mel and I, no one will know this, but we once recorded a podcast when both of us were tired back in the summer, and we actually abandoned it halfway through, didn't we, Mel? Because it was just so terrible. We were like, we'll just re-record this next week.
But yeah, and also knowing that you've got to be on camera and you've got to look like awake to teach, you know, you don't want to be kind of half comatose. But literally that's what it kind of felt like, and my eyes had gone all bug-eyed as well because it's so dry in Madrid. So anyway, I'm glad I brought some eye drops, whacked them in, and then just kind of gave myself the pep talk, went and had a shower and just kind of woke myself up and then put on my makeup.
Yeah, I was going to ask, do they get somebody to do the makeup for you, or do you just do your own makeup? And
no, I don't normally wear foundation, but I had been kind of preparing myself. So like about a month before, I bought some foundation and kind of...
But you have brilliant skin. You don't need foundation even on camera.
Yeah, you say that, Natasha, but I was like, I do get the odd outbreak, and I just wanted to make sure that if that happened, that I would be ready, you know, to you know, because sometimes it just helps, you know, it just helps you. So yeah, I prepared, and like I once I'd kind of got dressed and I'd got ready, and I felt a lot more confident about it, and yeah, did it. Yeah, that was a good day.
Oh, I'm glad that you managed to give yourself that little pep talk, and it kind of, you were on the up from there on. Yeah, one of my questions to you was going to be, what was the scariest part of all of this?
Yeah, it's funny because it was literally the travel that was probably the bit that I wasn't looking forward to the most.
Yeah, understandable, certainly at the moment.
And going through, you know, customs, going through security checks. There were a lot of forms to fill before you could actually travel because, you know, the UK, we were in lockdown, and so you couldn't actually travel for anything other than work. So in order to make sure that you wouldn't be stopped or turned around, I'd had to make sure I had like letters from Domestika that I was working with them. And then I also had to fill out a Spanish health form as well, a health check thing before I went. So there was actually quite a bit of admin stuff to get sorted before you could even go. And I think that is, I mean, travel when it's not COVID is tricky, but with COVID it's heightened. So at the airports was where it was most obvious that we were in a pandemic. So there were like so many warnings and so many instructions, and you know, making sure that you weren't too close to the person in front, and then queuing, and you know, all of that stuff.
I was going to say, I imagine that the airports are fairly empty at the moment. Is that right?
Well, on the way there, they were definitely not as busy as on the way back. On the way there, I didn't have anyone to sit next to in the aeroplane. I had a whole kind of row to myself. But on the way back, it was completely full. So we were all sat next to each other. You know, there wasn't any gaps, which obviously it was just a busier time to travel. I think once I got there and I'd got over myself and had my pep talk, I actually really enjoyed it. and another thing that was nice was actually meeting another teacher who was there as well. I'll tell you how I met her, because I didn't meet her actually in the offices of Domestika. I actually met her when I was on the Monday evening and the coffee maker that was in my room stopped working, and I don't drink coffee anyway, and I was like, I just need a small kettle because I need to make myself some tea. So I rang down and asked them whether they had a kettle they could give me, and they were like, okay, yeah, come on down. So I went down in the elevator, and just as the elevator doors opened, this girl was standing there with a kettle in her hand. And I was like, what? Are you giving me that kettle? And I was like, no, that's not right. So, and I just said, oh, are you on Domestika? Are you doing Domestika or something like that? And she was like, yeah, I am.
Why did you think that might be the case? That she was there for that?
Well, it's because she had a kettle in her hand. And I was like, well, she must be British.
Aha! I see where you're going, yeah.
So my mind was probably like just doing, I don't know what it was doing. And I probably, you know, normally I wouldn't have said anything, but I think it was just the surprise of bumping into someone who had a kettle, and I was on my way to get a kettle. It was good though that I just kind of splurted something out, because then we were able to connect and find out that we were both teachers, and we were actually on the same floor as well at Domestika. So she was in the studio which was next to me, and then after that we kind of arranged to meet at breakfast, and then we walked to the studio together.
Oh, that's nice, yeah.
And then on, I think, Wednesday evening we went out as well. So we kind of tentatively went out to find something to eat in the evening, because all of the restaurants, although there's limits on people sitting in groups of 6 or more, they're still open. So they are open for you to come and eat in.
Right.
So
it was nice that you had someone to do that with.
Yeah, because I think if not, I would have stuck with the Lidls.
Yeah, I know, I probably would do the same. I can imagine I would feel a bit awkward about eating out on my own in a city I don't know. Yeah,
I mean, we just used Google Maps and like popped in restaurants near me, so that's so handy, such a handy thing. Easily just walk around there, and that's what we did. We just said, well, let's just go and walk to it and see what there is. And there were loads of places you could eat. We ended up sharing a pizza and some wrap as well, but the pizza was really nice, really crispy. I'm remembering it now. I was like, oh, that's such a nice pizza.
You're wanting that pizza right now, aren't you? Poor Mel in isolation, in quarantine for several days already.
Oh, do you know what? That is probably the hardest bit of this whole experience, is doing this quarantine now. It's day 6. So yeah, just, you know, and I'm doing extreme quarantine. So as in, I'm not...
It sounds like a game show. Extreme Quarantine with Melanie Chadwick. It's day 6.
Yeah, it is. It's like that because I can't actually physically touch my husband. So
Mel, this is not that kind of podcast. We don't want to know about that kind of thing.
Oh dear, they're all wise enough. They know what I mean.
No, that must be very difficult. And I thought about that, like you've been away for a week and you come back and you can't hug him or spend any real time with him for 2 weeks.
Yeah, and you know what? That actually made me cry because when I came back, I saw him in the car park. He couldn't give me a hug. He couldn't.
That's so strange.
Yeah,
he
couldn't pick up my baggage. You know, it was like just had to get in the car. Still have my mask on. Him have his mask on. Drive home, and then like going into the house and seeing that there was a plastic curtain up by my.
That's so strange.
Room and just going in there straight away, not being able to walk around your living space.
It's very odd when you've been in another country and you've done all of that travelling and suddenly you're just in one room for 2 weeks. I mean, mentally that's quite tough, isn't it?
After like that night, just feeling quite sorry for myself, a bit sad. The next morning I just thought, right, again, I've got to just, this isn't going to be forever. I've just got to get some routines in and just do it. Yeah, it does help to, like, I've managed to find something to exercise to, and then I found ways in which I can relax in the evening, switch off, because that's another thing, is that I could easily just probably overwork.
This is the thing, isn't it? Because that's really all you've got. You're in there and you kind of think, oh, well, I'll keep myself busy and I'll just work and I'll do all these different projects. But yeah, you need sort of some division throughout your day and evening where you just take some time to just relax. Does Tony sit outside the door sometimes and have a chat with you?
We have done that a couple of times where he's just pulled a chair to the door and I've sat on the other side and we've just chatted.
Isn't it strange? I can't believe we're living through such weird times.
It is really weird, isn't it?
Mentally, it's so bizarre and so difficult to deal with. And I guess, for your quarantine, you just have to think, well, I'm nearly halfway through now. And before you know it, you'll be free and able to frolicking along the Lizard Peninsula.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I'm like with my postcards, I've had to like go back to kind of just finding places to draw, online.
Like you did right at the beginning when we had lockdown in March earlier this year, yeah.
So again, it impacts, doesn't it? Impacts in lots of different ways that you don't think of.
One final thing I wanted to ask you was whether you feel that your confidence has grown through doing something like this, because, you did have to push yourself. Things like this are easier for some people than for others. For example, I would find it really difficult, and I think if Domestika had asked me to do what you've done, my answer would probably be no, because I'd just be too overwhelmed by the entire experience. So I think I'm in awe of you, and I think you're really brave for doing what you've done. And I can imagine that through pushing yourself to do something like this, you do feel more confident now. You know you can handle something like that. And if other opportunities arise for you to be filmed, for example, you would probably be fine with it, wouldn't you?
I think I would. I think I would say, well, if I can do that, then I can do something else. And I definitely feel like my confidence has grown. I mean, I even managed to do an Instagram live there.
You did, yeah. I didn't see it until after the event, I think.
But even like kind of thinking I'll do that wouldn't have happened. I would have had to have geared myself up or have a good reason to do it. But I just thought, well, just do it. It's like you're just talking to people. You're like just sharing what's going on. So just do it. So yeah, I definitely feel like I have grown in confidence, and I think I probably learn things more when I'm put in a difficult situation.
Definitely, yeah. It's interesting because I found that just by doing this podcast, which is something I wouldn't have done if you hadn't asked me, and I found it really difficult at the beginning. And sometimes, I have moments where I still find it quite difficult. But I've noticed, and Dominic said this to me the other day, that doing this has made me so much more confident when I'm speaking in my own videos. So whenever you push yourself out of your comfort zone like that, it does lead on to other things, doesn't it? You gradually become more, and I think so that shows that it's really important to do things like this if you feel you can.
I would say yes, go for it, just do it. Don't worry about it, just do it. You'll surprise yourself.
Yeah, you don't know where this is going to lead either. I'm really excited to see your course. I have to sign up to your course.
Thanks, Natasha, for asking me all about my experience. I hope that's given you a kind of a good overview of what happened in Madrid. Next episode, Natasha, what are we going to be looking at?
We're going to be talking about mental health, looking after your mental health as a creative, especially during these times. Finding some kind of balance in your life as well between your work and all the other parts of your life.
That sounds good. Brilliant. Okay, thanks a lot, guys, for listening today. I know it was a little bit different where I chatted a lot about my experience, but we thought it would be worth you hearing what went on. Come and find us over on our Instagram or YouTube channel. And again, if you have any comments or feedback for us, just let us know and we would love to hear your thoughts. Okay, until next episode, stay safe and stay creative.